Chinatown, starring Jack Nicholson and Faye Dunaway, was released in 1974 and made $23 million in the box office on a budget of $6 million. Adjusted for inflation, today it would have made about $150 million on a $40 million budget. That's not too bad. Of course, the way that people consume movies is very different now than it was in 1974, but objectively, this film did very well financially. Yet, if you've seen the film, you know it's not a happy story.
Get away from him!
How many years have I got?
Spoilers for Chinatown ahead. It is no secret that the most financially successful movies today are big-budget, action hero epic set pieces. Even with the slow descent in the popularity of Marvel, Deadpool and Wolverine just crossed $1 billion in the global box office. These are popcorn movies, famously described by Martin Scorsese as, quote, closer to theme parks, end quote, than cinema. They are big-budget action-adventure movies about saving humanity or the world or even the universe. Despite how bad it may seem at the start of the third act, the heroes will eventually figure out what the villain is doing and band together to destroy him once and for all. Has there ever been a superhero movie where the villain wins? You could argue that Avengers: Infinity War was an exception, but if you think of Infinity War and Endgame as one big movie, the heroes eventually come out on top. No one walked out of Infinity War thinking, that's it, Thanos won, end of story. It's not a question of if they're going to beat the villain, just how. These are the big budget movies that are played in theaters today. If we look back at the early 1970s, it was a very different story.
But Mrs. Mulray, I goddamn near lost my nose, and I like it. I like breathing through it. And I still think that you're hiding something.
Chinatown is a movie about a private investigator, played by Jack Nicholson, hired by a woman to find out if her husband is having an affair. Nicholson's character follows the husband, gathers information, discovers that he is having an affair, and presents the evidence to the wife. Except the woman who hired him is not the wife. The real wife, played by Faye Dunaway, intervenes, and her husband is soon found dead. From its surface, Chinatown has all the trappings of a classic murder mystery. Nicholson's character is a little off-color, and the situation feels more dangerous than one might expect, but the film seems to be headed in a conventional direction. Nicholson will eventually uncover the murder, find out what happened, and bring the killer to justice. As the film goes on, the spool starts to unravel, and we eventually realize that the core emotional story is not really about a man's murder at all. Faye Dunaway's character reveals that she is trying to protect her daughter from her evil father, who is trying to take her away. By the end of the film, the murder plot is almost abandoned, and it is just about trying to get Faye Dunaway's character to escape. If she and her daughter can get to Mexico, maybe we can still have a happy ending. But while trying to escape, she is shot by a cop and dies. Her father gets away with everything and manages to take his granddaughter away, the one thing they were trying to prevent. Jack Nicholson's character is let go into the night. He failed.
Forget it, Jake. It's Chinatown.
Roll credits, literally. The film is not particularly uplifting. I understand that. I think that feeling good when a movie is over is a little overrated. Positive emotion will put butts in chairs and is a great way to get people to watch. But it's just one way that the medium of film can be used. When done right, a movie transports you. It takes you out of your life for an hour or two and allows you to live as a different person. You get the good and the bad that comes with embodying someone else. Films are engines for empathy. They allow us to feel things that we would not otherwise be able to experience. We can see through the eyes of a character and walk in their shoes. I will never be a private investigator in the 1930s, but when I watch Chinatown, I get the feeling of something approximating what that experience would be like. It does not always end in victory. Sometimes it is walking away in the night as someone bleeds out in the street. Maybe it's just me, but these films hold a special place in my heart. They are not something that I want to watch all of the time. If I'm going to a dark place, there's only so much time that I want to spend there. But when it's done right, it's a powerful experience. One of the biggest problems with many screenwriters is that they coddle their protagonist. They don't want to let them get hurt. They want to make sure they can cleanly and easily get out of the problems they're thrown into. This makes for very boring and unrealistic stories. Chinatown has no problem dragging its characters through the mud, or literally through the water. Jack Nicholson spends half the film with his nose in a bandage. These days, our heroes seem like they're invincible. In real life, people get hurt, they get beat up. Sometimes this is physically, oftentimes it is emotionally, and in the end, is everyone okay? Not at all. Daughter is taken away by her abusive grandfather, Faye Dunaway is dead, and Jack Nicholson is shattered inside. That's it. The movie is over. But when you watch it, it feels real. It feels like, given all these elements, precisely how this situation would end. There is no Deus Ex Machina plot device that comes down to save everyone. It is a bad situation and ends terribly. Classic poetry and drama can be divided into two basic categories: the comedy and the tragedy. Comedy does not mean that everything in the story is funny. It means that the story ends happily, and the main character's struggles end up working out for them. In a classic tragedy, the character goes from a life that is good to one that is bad. It is a fall, and ends with the character not achieving their goals, sometimes even dying. Today, almost every blockbuster film is a comedy in the classic sense of the word. Yet both of these are equally legitimate forms of storytelling. There is a temptation to coddle our characters and make sure nothing hurts them. We want them to always overcome the odds and rise to the challenge. But that's not always how life works out. Sometimes the most interesting stories are where the characters get really hurt. Movies are a safe space to explore ideas and experiences. If we get to live as someone else for a few hours, don't you want the full range of what that can be like? I understand there are lots of indie films that are tragedies, but the big budget movies are what lead the way and direct the cultural focus. When done with poise, grace, and expertise, the tragedy can be very effective and deeply impactful. So when you're finishing your next screenplay, just think about it. Does the character need to win?